Welcome to part 5. Create an HTML input, update, and delete form for any MySQL table. We have a function called the form generator, and inside the form generator we have some variables that we need to set, like the table name. Here is the table that we created in part 4, and it is our custom commands table. This is our custom commands form that was generated, and we have the title, the command, and we have the type, which is required, and then we have keywords. We have an add button and we have a clear button. The way this works is I can fill the form in and I don't put the type in, then I get an error, add. I see here that I have a required field, which is the type. So I have a title and I have a command, and this type just so happens to be a URL, so it's a link. So now if I add that, I don't get any errors, and if we check our console, we'll see all the information from the form. Now if we want to clear that, we just click the clear button and that clears it. The type column is required, and that's set up in the actual table design. So when we create the table, we said that this cannot be null. All the form colors can be changed to whatever color that you want. The columns can be changed to any order by changing the order in the actual table design. So if you were to move one of the columns up in your table design, it would move it up in the form as well automatically. Below that, we have what the script will do. The script will create an input form for any given MySQL table and generate the database input fields that are required. It'll create the correct input types for each input field. It'll create required field logic for add, update, and delete buttons, and it will display the form on the screen with the form fields. It will display the form and the fields in a text box, so you copy it, paste it wherever you need. Next, we have the data object. We create the data object for outgoing data. We take out any dashes, we put spaces in uppercase words. It's human readable. Okay, then we just verify that we do have a table to look at. If not, we'll just stop everything. And then we do our database connection, which we did in part 2. We just check the connection, make sure everything's good there. Now we go get table columns and bring those back with a query. Show full column. So we get those results back. We put them into the table array where we can loop through the table array and take out things that we don't need to see, like timestamps and auto-generating fields, whatever we need to exclude from view. After that loop, we go right into our next loop, which is to generate the form fields. So we do a loop through the table array and we address any required fields that can't be null unless it's the primary key. So now we're looking for required fields so we can work with those in there. And here are different input label templates for required fields. And then below here we address the varchar columns. This is where we start finding the column types and creating the proper HTML for them. So for instance, this is a varchar, so it will be creating an input type text input. And then we address a text, which would be a text area. And then we continue down and we address decimals, we address timestamps, we address the primary key, and so on. And then down below, we address the tiny int, and then we address enum. And that's the end of the loop. Next, we encode all the table columns and attributes for console viewing, which is what all this does right here. Then after that, we're going to close our MySQL connection. We always want to close that. We have our button logic down below. After that, we have our actual button HTML along with the process form function, which is embedded in the here doc of this PHP variable. And if the job is clear and the clear button is pressed, then we reset everything. And then there's our form data, which becomes an empty object. Then down here we address any required fields. After that, we continue on with our existing form data population and we put that into our form data object, which we created. It's just console logging out the form information. It's not doing anything with it yet. It's just going to console log out the form data information. Here you can see the information that I put in about this red rose, and when I hit add, I get all the information about the form right here, and then it's ready to use for whatever we want. When the document fully loads, set some on change and key up events on the form. It has to do with the required fields. Then we have add. Now we're going to be getting into that. If it's required, they're going to get an error. Once you have the form generator, you just go ahead and call it. It returns an object including the form HTML and also form text area and some other stuff we'll be covering in part 6, where we actually submit and put this information in our database table. This script will be available when I finish the series. That will include the add, update, and delete functions.